Recording in progress.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Eric Kemp. I'm the NABSE Administration Commission chairperson. And we're going to just take a moment to get settled here, make sure we get rid of this feedback. So are you muted? It says maybe.
Sound better now, Eric. You're all there's no feedback on my side now.
Okay. All right. Again, I want to welcome everybody to our first NABSE Administration Commission event for the year. We're doing this webinar, and we've got some dynamic speakers from all across the country, from all the different regions. And our focus is going to be leading now, voices from the top. So again, I'm Eric Kemp, your NABSE Administration Commission chairperson, and this event's been organized by the Administration Commission, and there's some other of our leaders and organizers in the room. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge them. We've got our secretary, Principal Anthony Harris, and we also have some of our other leaders helping to organize, and our moderator today is Dr. Ann Hart. And then also in the room here with me in Phoenix, Arizona, we've got Assistant Principal DeLon Leggett, and also retired Assistant Principal Keith Brazier. And they're all part of our leadership team, helping to organize events, year round, leading up to the national conference that's going to take place in Orlando. We're really fortunate that we've got some dynamic superintendents that are going to be speaking with us over the next hour and a half or so. And we were very strategic in trying to get a diverse group of leaders from around the country and different districts, so they can share some of their experiences and tackle some tough questions. But I want to make sure you understand what we're all about. So the National Alliance of Black School Educators is nation's premier nonprofit organization devoted to furthering academic success for our nation's children, particularly children of African descent. NABSE boasts an outreach to a distinguished group of preeminent educators, including teachers, administrators, superintendents, as well as corporate and institutional members. It was founded in 1970. NABSE is dedicated to improving both educational experiences and accomplishments of African Americans youth through the development and use of instructional and motivational methods that increase levels of inspiration and attendance and overall achievement. There are several different commissions that operate. In addition to the Administration Commission, there's the Governance and Education Commission, there's the Higher Education Commission, there's the Instruction and Instructional Support Commission, there's the Retired Educators Commission, there's the Superintendent's Commission, and then there's the Parents Commission. But of course, again, we're here today for the Administration Commission. The Administration Commission addresses concerns related to the administration and the governance of school districts and focuses on the management of local schools and explores innovative practices related to school operations. So we're going to have a series of events leading up to the national conference in Orlando, but we thought it would be smart to start the very first one, with the leaders of our school districts across the country. So even though you'd heard me mention that the superintendents have their own commission, we thought it was important that we start with them in our own administration commission. And for clarity, the administration commission includes essentially assistant principals up through assistant superintendents. And this would be on campuses and, at the district office. But we're going to start with these dynamic leaders today. And, they'll set the stage for our other events that are coming our way between now and the conference in December. So what I would like to do is, introduce our moderator today, and it's Dr. Ann Hart. She's seated next to me right here, and we're located in Phoenix, Arizona. And one of the things you should know about Dr. Hart, she's a passionate leader and she's a consultant now that helps many schools across the country. But once upon a time, she was one of the leaders in the Arizona State Alliance of Black School Educators. So, in fact, I'm holding in my hand, you know, Dr. Hart, take you down memory lane here. I got one of your old programs for a conference back in the day. So, so without any further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Dr. Ann Hart, who's going to moderate this morning's discussion with our superintendents, and she'll also handle their introductions. Dr. Hart.
Thank you, and good morning. Excuse me. I am happy that we have on board the superintendents that will be communicating and responding to our systems equity and student engagement seminar today on this Zoom website. Our focus is again the heart of the school, connecting students, learning. So, and our theme is leading now or leading the charge. And so before we get into the nooks and crannies of how this is going to turn for our superintendents to respond, we're going to be leading now in charge with, and the four bullets that we're going to be speaking about, that the questions will be wrapped around, will be influencing people, emotional engagement, strategic alignment, and sustainability. And just briefly, I would like to share with you that all of this leading now or leading the charge has to do with referring to proactive human-centric approaches to leadership that combines emotional intelligence with strategic alignment to drive sustainable results. And we know that K through 12 superintendents are navigating high stakes, politically complex environments in which strategic communications and peer support is needed to improve student outcomes. So when we speak of influencing people, this means to shift from purely technical or authoritative management to influencing people through empathy, engagement, and shared purposes to create a more resilient environment. When we talk about emotional engagement, we are speaking on cultivating emotional connections to boost morale, resilience, and retention. And when we speak of strategic alignment, we're translating emotional awareness into strategic action. It involves managing one's own internal emotional narrative and understanding the emotional needs of employees, safety, autonomy, inclusion, and justice to foster higher energy and better performance. We speak to sustainability. We're ensuring long term, lasting success by integrating social, environmental, and financial goals. Sustainable leadership involves fostering a sustainability DNA to create positive environmental and social impacts while improving organizational performance. So that will be our bullets that I will lead you through the questions. And before I start, I would like to ask Mr. Kemp to do the introductions to the first superintendents that will be a part of the immediate equity actions questions and high impact engagement strategies.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hart. Thank you so much for our charge for this this morning or afternoon now. I'm going to introduce the speakers for today, but first, I'm going to give you a couple of logistics for the webinar. So again, thank you for attending this afternoon's webinar. The microphones in the chat function will be disabled for participants until our question and answer portion of each session. During that time, you're going to use the raise your hand feature if you'd like to be brought to the stage to ask a question. Otherwise, you're going to use the Q&A tool within the webinar. There will be one question per participant as we get folks coming in and joining us this morning. In addition, this morning, we'd like to remind you of today's agenda. We're going to start off again with our welcome and intros as we already have. The first session from around 12:15 or so to 1 o'clock will be with our first panel. And again, that panel will be moderated by Dr. Hart. We'll have a little break in between, and then we'll have a second panel with a second group of superintendents from around the country, and then we'll close out at around 1:55 to 2 o'clock with Mr. Kemp. Again, we would love to have you out there in the country join the admin commission. We need all the support that we can get to complete this work leading up to next year's conference in Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. It's in Orlando, Florida. So please, please, please use the QR code on the screen to give us our information so we can have you join us so you can be part of the admin commission's planning efforts. We have a lot of great things planned for this year. So again, our first session is going to be around systems, equity, and student engagement. And I'd just like to say our first panel here, we had to do a little bit of moving around with Dr. Andre Townsend, who is the superintendent of Hartford Schools and also the president-elect of the National Alliance of Black School Educators. He was set to come and join us this afternoon. However, he informed us that he had a death in the family and he will not be able to join us this afternoon. But no frets. We have some folks that have come in and do just a great job as well. So we have Dr. Antoine Hawkins from the Evergreen School District. And we are also expecting Dr. Anna Battle this afternoon as well. We're very, very fortunate to have Dr. Catrice Pereira join us this afternoon. I'm getting my times mixed up for this first panel. So I'm going to start off with the introductions. Mr. Kemp.
Yeah, Anthony, I was going to tell you that I think we got some people in the waiting room. So I don't know if you're able to give me some host control.
I've been letting folks in as I've been talking.
Okay, all right, very good.
Yeah, and I think I think you and Dr. Hart also have host control, so you're able to allow for folks to enter in. Okay.
Okay, very good.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. All right. So first up, we'll start with Dr. Catrice Pereira. Oh, you know what? I don't know, Dr. Pereira, did I get a bio from you? I'm making sure I got one from you. I don't believe so. If so, my apologies.
My apologies, actually.
Okay, very well. Yeah, so do you mind introducing yourself really quickly?
I don't, and my screen will freeze here and there. I apologize for that. But again, my name is Catrice Pereira. I know the screen says Agnella. That's my first name. Well, I got both of those on my birthday many years ago. But nonetheless, I have the pleasure and honor of serving in Lancaster, Texas, or as we say here in Texas, Lancaster is Lancaster to everyone else on paper. I've been here for 5 years. Prior to that, I was superintendent in Oregon. And prior to Oregon, I was a superintendent in Virginia. I spent most of my career in Virginia, alt cert at the beginning for teaching, and basically follow the traditional path to there. But I serve in Lancaster. I serve about 6,800 students. We're about 15 miles south of Dallas. And also, I have almost 100% of my students who are in deprivation situations, but 96% of them come to school, and we have graduated 100% for the last 5 years. And actually, in December, I was named NABSE Superintendent of the Year. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, well,
I've been around for a while.
Drop the mic on that one. As you can see, we have some fantastic folks for you joining us this afternoon. And I'm going to take a moment of personal privilege to say 06 to the good brother, Dr. Antoine Hawkins. Dr. Antoine Hawkins serves as superintendent of the Evergreen School District in San Jose, California. For more than 30 years, he has devoted his career to improving educational outcomes for marginalized communities and creating opportunities that empower students to succeed. Under his leadership, the district has expanded innovative programs, strengthened student achievement, and built pathways for lifelong learning. The district has a strong reputation, with all 18 of its schools being recognized as California Distinguished Schools, and many are also National Blue Ribbon Schools. In 2021, Dr. Hawkins was appointed as council member of the U.S. Department of Education's Western Educational Equity Assistance Center at West Ed, one of 4 equity assistance centers funded by the U.S. Department of Education and authorized under Title 4 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Dr. Hawkins holds a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, and a fully accredited doctorate with a research focus in organizational psychology and transformational leadership. He is a graduate of the University of Southern California Urban Superintendent Certification Program and has experience teaching at both the undergraduate and graduate levels, including chairing doctoral dissertations. And he has a lot more on his bio, but again, welcome, Dr. Hawkins.
Need to move up.
Well, thanks a lot. It's a pleasure to be here and to be in the presence of rock stars like Dr. Pereira. I've had the opportunity to meet her in Atlanta, and everyone else who's on the call. I want to say this from the onset, Brother Harris. I did share with you earlier. I have a couple of things that were triple booked, and I have about 20 minutes, and I'm going to have to hop off. But I'm just phenomenally blessed to be here, and whatever I can contribute to the conversation, I'm just honored. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for all the time that you are able to give us this morning. I'm sure all of our participants will find some value in both what you and Dr. Pereira had to present to us this morning. So at this point in time, again, I'm going to remind us that this first session will be centered around systems, equity, and student engagement. And I'll turn our program over to Dr. Hart. Dr. Hart, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I wanted to say thank you again for our superintendents who are a part of our Zoom gallery conference this morning with our systems, equity, and student engagement, Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Pereira and Dr. Tanzel. I understand and I express my condolences to he and his family for his absence. Then I get everyone who's on board today, and we'll be waiting for Dr. Anna Battle. Is that correct?
I saw her on there, but she dropped off. Maybe she'll come back.
Okay. So we're going to start with the first question. And I will like to let you know that each superintendent will have an opportunity to speak to the question and respond in approximately 3 minutes so we can get everyone's response there. And if you need to take a little bit of time to get your point across, that'll be great because I'll be taking copious notes so that we can summarize and use this information to move forward with our heart of the school, connecting students to learning. So I would like to start with Dr. Antoine Hawkins. Your first question is, if a principal wanted to identify and address one low-hanging fruit equity gap in their building by next Monday, where should they look first?
First of all, I want to thank you for the question. I appreciate the question. It is a question that is really, really critical in terms of what we do. So the answer for me would be to start with classroom level access and participation. Look at who is doing the thinking, getting grade level work, missing instruction due to discipline or pullouts. Most inequities are not hidden. They show up in who participate and who doesn't. So I think that that's a critical component when we're talking about the question or looking at answering it. By Monday, principals should be in the classroom asking who is doing the thinking in the room and who isn't, and then act quickly to reset participation structures and to ensure that all students have access to grade level tasks with support. I believe that equity lives in the moment of instruction And that is important for us to be able to synthesize and to bring things together so that we could have the action that's needed to move forward.
Thank you. I appreciate that response. And we will ask the same question to Dr. Pereira. Would you like for me to repeat that question for you, Dr. Pereira?
No, ma'am, I actually wrote it down. So I was
Okay.
listening and but I will say ditto to everything my colleague just shared, and just add a few more items to that in the sense that I'm in Texas, obviously, and I will say Texas is like, for whatever reason, the state capital of testing. We test from every angle, almost every grade, and I don't believe that's healthy. But I can say this about principals being able to identify and address the low-hanging fruit, and trying to address those equity gaps in their buildings. And since, again, we're engaged in implementing various STAR models here, boot camps, if you will, preparing, I think auditing that tier one instruction and intervention alignment to ensure that students in need are receiving timely, standard aligned support according to, the plans that we have at bay. Also, I think conducting targeted walkthroughs that focus in on students' cognitive engagement, meaning that who is consistently doing that cognitive lift, thinking and responding. And the teacher is not necessarily the sage on the stage here, but definitely targeted student groups being touched appropriately, if you will, through interventions.
Thank you, Dr. Pereira.
Mhm.
And do we have a third superintendent on board?
We're expecting Dr. Battle, so I'll let you know when she hops
So
on.
right now you're holding it down, Dr. Hawkins and Dr. Pereira right now, okay? So we're going to go to question number 2, and we'll start with you, Dr. Pereira, for the next question. How can school leaders ensure that equity moves from a buzzword in a staff meeting to a lived experience in the back row of a classroom?
Mhm. Well, I think we are all aware that when you talk about equity, that means that someone else probably has been receiving more than they should have, and you want to make sure that everyone gets what they need. And I'll tell you, I learned more about equity from the kitchen of my grandmother before any, doctorate programs, because everyone sat down at that table. We had everyone received the same food, just different amounts and what we need, and everyone walked away full with their bellies, if you will, and happy. But I would say school leaders would to ensure equity moves forward and it's beyond the sexy buzzword now of that's about in education. I would say operationalize equity through clear instructional and non-negotiables that I think guarantees that access to grade level rigor. And rigor doesn't mean more. It just means ensuring that kids get what they need in every classroom. And I believe this can be communicated explicitly through different frameworks. In Lancaster, we have built an instructional framework for both reading and math that we use as anchors throughout the district. Also, that anchor coaching on those frameworks, feedback. In high level practices, if you will. I think the scaffolding helps with the equity, quality questioning, and of course, structured student discourse. But I also believe as an instructional leader, you have to monitor the implementation through frequent and evidence-based walkthroughs that are focused on the student's experience and not just the teacher's actions. And so I would say that those are some things that could help move equity beyond the buzzword, and ensuring that our students get that experience, especially those in the back row of a classroom.
Thank you for that, Dr. Pereira.
Mhm.
I think that's very important, all that you stated, is, even using your analogy with having that opportunity at the table.
Mhm.
And Dr. Hawkins, can you respond to that question as well? Would you like for me to repeat it?
No, I don't need you to repeat it, but I'm going to say this. I don't know how much more I can respond to perfection. Dr. Pereira laid it out there quite eloquently. I'll just share a couple of thoughts that I have relative to it. To the question of how can school leaders ensure that equity becomes a lived experience in the classrooms, I'd like to add to that just by saying equity becomes real when it's observable and it's consistent. The leader should identify, I'd say, 3 to 5 instructional non-negotiables, be in classrooms, as my sister said earlier, consistently. I know in my system, believe it or not, I received pushback from some of our union members when I was doing my rounding, going into classrooms, looking at instruction, seeing if there was, what small group instruction looked like, pulling students out and so forth. And so, number 2 is to be in classrooms and then to provide, as she talked about, immediate actionable feedback, not to just sit back in the cut, but talk to individuals about what you have observed, what you are observing, and then give them strategies and tools to be successful. The key shift is moving from did we teach it to who actually learned today. And there is a significant difference in the two. And that changes to
Right.
me adult behavior, right? So I just believe sincerely in my heart that if you can't see it in the classroom, I'm going to park it here. If you can't see it in the classroom, it's not equity yet.
Well, exclamation point after that, Dr. Hawkins. Thank you. Okay, you're doing very well. And I'm going to take you to the last question in this immediate category for immediate equity actions. So I will go refer this question to you again, Dr. Pereira. What is one specific resource allocation shift you've made at the district level that you want your principals to leverage more aggressively?
Hmm. Um, there are a few things, but for the purpose of the question of one specific resource allocation that we've made at the district level that we want our principals to leverage more aggressively is, I think, when we strategically prioritize teacher coaching to accelerate teacher effectiveness and close those performance gaps, that has to be one, right? The campus leaders, if you will, are expected to align their models to our district framework as well. But also ensuring that there's protected PLC time with a narrow focus, if you will, on the standard alignment that, of course, are driven by the data that has been gathered, the key indicators of progress, and also responsive instruction. I think our campus leaders are expected to attend their PLCs as well and to ensure alignment with our district PLC protocols. And for me, that helps keep that consistency and ensuring that, we can measure across the district. Also, I think investing in high quality materials are specific allocations. I think that a shift that we made since I've been here in Lancaster. And our leaders, I encourage them to focus on the fidelity of implementation to guarantee that rigor in every classroom. Again, Texas being the state capital for state testing, if you will, we do it a lot. And now they have pretty much given us a curriculum called Bluebonnet Math. And when we continue to participate and do calibrations, even myself, I visit schools on Wednesdays. I'll ask the principal to take me around, and I look for a calibration throughout as we're doing look fors to ensure that our teachers are using their curriculum as intended and not utilizing old curriculum that has not been approved by our state. So I think those are some things that are specific that I think can help our instructional leaders at the campus level in ensuring that we make those shifts and allow for them to aggressively leverage the resources that they have.
Thank you for that. That's very integrated approach, and I appreciate that. And I want to say that contributes to your 100% graduation rate that you
It
spoke
does.
about earlier. So congratulations
It
and
does.
thank you.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, or fortunately for you, Dr. Hawkins, you have to follow the same question behind Dr. Pereira.
I'm telling you, you're making it really, really tough for
You'll
me.
go first next time.
It's okay though. Um, I was just thinking as Dr. Pereira was being so articulate in her response and her answer, I had to look at systems because I have the opportunity and the privilege to serve the largest, as a superintendent of the largest elementary school district in the 10th largest city. And so we really, 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 really I really focused on ensuring that allocation shifts should leverage principles more. And so what we did was we shifted from adding programs to strengthening core instruction. What that means is simply this. We prioritized in classroom supports over pull-out models by placing our strongest staff where students' needs were the greatest. And thirdly, we protected time for teacher collaboration around real student work, right? Which was really, really important for us. And we were able to monitor the data over time to see what type of student growth that we were receiving. This focus isn't on having more, it's on using what we have more intentionally. And I'm really, really seriously focused on that because I've just found, in my experience, humbly, that it's not about necessarily more resources, it's more about sharper use. How do you take what you already have and you refine that so that you can move towards a greater degree of resource allocation to help principals leverage their time, their resources, their interaction with their certificated staff and other support staff members so that we can really, really dig in to make sure that our students are learning effectively, that they're retaining the information that they learn, and then that they're promoting on to higher grades as we're transitioning them even into our high school system. So that's how I would answer that.
So thank you for that, Dr. Hawkins. Your school district, how many schools are in your district?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. We're down to 16 now. We had 18. Declining enrollment, we had to close a couple.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
So we're going to move to another category. Both of your responses have been very, very interesting and thought provoking. And there, we may have to have you do some professional development on some of these topics so they can be shared. Because what you just state, both you and Dr. Pereira are obviously at the top of your game. And I think this is very important. Glad we have this opportunity to have this dialogue this morning. So, taking you to category two, we're going to be speaking on high impact engagement strategies. So, Dr. Hawkins, we know student engagement is at a critical point. What is the most effective engagement hack, if you will, that you've seen a building leader use to re energize a stagnant school culture?
That's a very good question. Um, hmm. Um, the most effective, I would say, is the shift is increasing student talk and cognitive engagement. One leaders transformed. I was just thinking in my school system, I had a leader who transformed their building by ensuring every student speaks during every lesson. Structured discord was invaded in the lesson planning and lessons daily, and that led to higher engagement, fewer behavioral issues, and stronger learning outcomes. Because engagement is not about entertainment, it's about thinking. And so through this engagement hack, it wasn't about just being busy. It was about being mentally present so that students can be engaged and think. That's the first thing that comes to my mind that I want to share.
Well, that speaks to itself 100%. Thank you for that, Dr. Hawkins. Dr. Pereira, the same question, if you don't mind.
Yes, Sam. Thank you. I think, what can be most effective, sort of an engagement hack when you're trying to re-energize kind of a stagnant school culture. I believe a lot of things, as my colleague just shared as well, but that because that system-wide implementation of, I think of a structured student discourse or their student voice. as a daily expectation in every classroom has to be there. I think through our PLC cycles, that focus
Mhm.
on student choice and voice might look like our teachers learning how to implement a student menu or option boards or question frameworks or sentence stems, if you will. But I believe that rapid student feedback cycles help to elevate that student's voice and allows for the facilitator to adjust, if you will, the instruction in real time. Because I think that's important that you make those adjustments along the way. But I also know that increased leader presence in a classroom, I think with that being able to immediately coach and to reinforce the engaging and rigorous instruction, we've seen that change in two of our schools that when I arrived here were, if you will, schools that have been in the district historically underperforming, if you will. And I'm proud to say that those two schools have risen by Texas standards from a D to a B, and one of them was 2 points off from making that A because, again, of these consistent and immediate abilities to be able to coach and reinforce engagement. And of course, anytime we, as educators, can give our students choice and voice, that makes everything that we do, I believe, more effective as opposed to doing two, but also allowing them to give input and feedback. And that in itself engages kids when they're interested and know that things that are going to be relevant to them.
Awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Pereira, for your thorough feedback, as usual, for both of you and Dr. Hawkins. So, Dr. Pereira, I'm going to keep you where you are, and I'm going to ask you, how can principals support teachers in moving away from compliance based instruction toward high interest student led learning? And you kind of already spoke to some of that in your past remarks.
Mhm,
But if there's one thing that particularly stands out regarding this question,
mhm,
how can principals support teachers in moving away from compliance based instruction? Because they kind of lean into that
mhm.
because that is the model and the moat, and that's what they're used to.
Yes, absolutely. And we all know that what gets tested gets a little bit of interest and gets ensuring that it happens in schools. However, I'll keep it really short because I know my colleague needs to leave and I want to make sure that he has an opportunity to also engage with this question. I'll say that ensuring that lesson design is consistently includes rigorous task, real world relevance, and opportunities for not necessarily failure, but I like to call it productive struggle, right? Bridging that gap in between, but helping the students through scaffolding type of opportunities. Also, I think actively monitoring and highlight and scale classrooms where students are leading that cognitive work. And that in itself allows for, I think, teachers to move away from that compliance base and more towards high interest and student-led learning. So I said I would keep my answer short and that's concise. Dr. Hawkins, I pass the baton to you.
Dr. Hawkins, thank you, Dr. Pereira.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Pereira. And Dr. Hart, this is going to have to be my last question because I have to drop out. But I want to answer the question like this. Principals
And
have
it
to
is the
create.
last question.
Oh, okay. Principals have to create the conditions and support the shift. That includes modeling what student-led learning looks like, providing planning time and structures, and celebrating growth, not perfection, right? And more importantly, I think that we need to redefine what we look for, not quiet classrooms, but active discussion and creation, because when we expect shifts or with expectations shift, instruction follows, right? And so compliance looks quiet. Learning though sounds different. And I just want to wrap by saying this: at the end of the day, this work is not about initiatives, it's about experiences. Students should experience equity and engagement in classrooms every period, every day. If they're not feeling it there, we still have work to do. Because for me, equity and engagement aren't they're initiatives, they're experiences. And thank you for the question.
Thank you, Dr. Hawkins. I appreciate that. So, Dr. Pereira, if you don't mind, this is going to be pretty simple. I would like for you to speak on behalf of the superintendents across the country by Dr. Hawkins. And this is just a rapid fire question in 30 seconds. Something that all who are listening this morning, this afternoon, can utilize and appreciate. So, in 30 seconds, what is one engagement killer that leaders should stop doing immediately?
Wow. Asking educators to unlearn something that they feel has worked has always been a challenge, no matter where you are. But I think, and in my scenario and my experiences, what I know to be true is that we have to ensure that we are not accepting passive learning environments where students are not actively thinking and engaging. And all the questions that we've answered thus far this morning spoke to that, right? Also, I think we need to stop prioritizing the compliance and control over meaningful student discourse and participation. Another one that was highlighted in the questions that were asked. And also, we have to stop allowing that low rigor task that fail to challenge students intellectually and that they do not reflect grade level rigor and expectations. I think our students need to be challenged as productive struggle is a very healthy thing. And we do have that as an expectation here in Lancaster. You know, you have to teach teachers that it's okay for your student to fail, right? Because they're learning. My grandma used to tell me that, you know, you have two choices in life, right or wrong. You choose and choose wisely. And but if you failed, then learn the lessons from that, as opposed to
Right.
getting down and allowing it to tear you apart. So again, I think ensuring that our kids have that active discourse and participation definitely is one.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pereira. And Dr. Hawkins, I know he had to leave, but Dr. Pereira, is outstanding that you were able to stay on board with us during this first session
Mhm.
with systems equity and student engagement. I've learned a lot through my conversation with you, and I hopefully others have as well. And I look forward to meeting you in the future, and I hope that you will remain for the part two of our dialogue and discussion if you are able to do so. Thank you so much, and
Mhm.
I'll turn this back over to Mr. Anthony Harris.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, wow. There's a lot of great information from both of our superintendents this afternoon slash morning, depending on where you are around the country. At this time, again, we would like to open the floor up for any questions from the audience. Um, Again, our topic from this morning was, we've got to go back on my slide deck here, was systems, equity, and student engagement. We have some folks in the audience, if you would like to ask Dr. Pereira or Dr. Hart some questions as well. Dr. Hart, I'll put you on the stage as well, being a district leader for the question and answer portion of this session. So if you have a question, if you don't mind raising your hand. All right, we have a question from Miss Norwood.
Good morning. I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona. And Dr. Prairie, you mentioned your framework, instructional framework for your district. Can you talk a little bit more about the process to create that framework and speak a little bit more about what that framework entails?
Absolutely. When I first arrived here in Lancaster, what we did to do is to try to ensure that I like to do audits of all departments when I arrive in a new district, because I want to make sure that we are looking for things that we can improve and build upon, right? Not necessarily to get rid of things. And so we spent over a year with a moderator that helped us. Um, ensure that we have that triage of purpose for that's further defined, if you will. We built it in the categories of, you know, ensure that triage and teachers work much like RTI with students, but it focuses on supporting our educators and based on their level of need. Also, we made the purpose of our framework to make sure that teachers receive the right type of intensity of support so they can be successful, much like we do with students, just kind of a scaffolding thing. But in short, I think the purpose for our framework and the triaging of the scenarios is to strategically prioritize our support so that every teacher, regardless of the starting point, can grow and succeed and ultimately improve. And it also helps with that consistency. And so we have such categories such as differentiated support. We have how we build cultures. We have a framework within a framework that talks about using time and resources wisely. Also, helping to accelerate our teachers' growth, stabilizing the instructional across each campus. Also, increase retention. And the last two areas was promote equity of support and to improve student outcomes. And so that's outlined in a graphic, if you will, for our teachers. I wish I could share it with you. And I'm happy to. I could send a copy to Mr. Harris or Mr. Kemp, who could share it out with everyone. And our information is there. And again, a lot of this is built around the T-test assessment piece that's from our state. And so again, just trying to ensure that we have scaffold support and different levels, just like we do, again, the RTI piece with our students. We do the same with our teachers because right now we have teachers from a variety of different decades, if you will, and different backgrounds and different experiences. And so we have to
Mhm.
be ensure that that support is there for all of them. So I hope that answers some of your questions, but again, it's hard to I don't have, hopefully I built somewhat of a visual for you. But again, I'm happy to share that with Mr. Harris or Dr. Kemp in order to ensure that everyone can see what that framework is for us.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I'll go ahead,
If
Mr.
I
Kemp.
could jump in just for a moment. Number one, I just want to thank you for that excellent response. And I do want to acknowledge that the person who asked that question, Lisa Norwood,
Right.
she's a past president of the Phoenix Alliance of Black School Educators. And we want to congratulate her because she was just recently announced as a brand new superintendent. So let's hear it for Lisa Norwood.
Oh, it's principal.
No,
She is on the
So,
reservation.
Ms. Norwood, do you want to just quickly tell us the name of the school district you're now going to be leading?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm the interim superintendent for Tuba City Unified School District. It is on the Navajo Nation in Arizona, very rural area. And I literally am learning as I go. And I've only been in the role 3 weeks. So, yeah.
All right. Well, you got a network of superintendents right here that I'm sure will be happy to stay connected with you.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Congratulations. Fantastic news. All the best on your future endeavors. And again, yeah, like Mr. Kemp said, you have some folks here that you can lean on as you make your transition into this next role. Dr. Perry, we do have another question in the chat from Miss Roslyn. How would you support schools that are struggling with student behavior and academics in terms of student engagement? Some of the principals are very overwhelmed. How would you prioritize support?
Well, again, nature of the beast, right? The students that we serve, right? And our schools reflect the communities where we serve. But what I'll say is this: is what I found in my experiences in the 3 states where I've served as superintendent. In order to help with that, I believe the focus has to be not on the behavior, but on instruction. And I think when you can have engaging instruction and allow kids to, be able to have voice and choice, I think that counts. That cuts down. We've seen like a 17% decrease in our disciplinary situations here in Lancaster over the last 3 years by ensuring that instruction is in place, that we have good teachers in our classrooms that are qualified and that are supported and have what they need as far as resources to ensure that our kids are engaged. I know that may sound like theoretical, but I know that it works, and it has worked in all 3 places where I've served as superintendent in Virginia, Oregon, and now in Texas. And so I would say that that is to me the most important piece. That student voice, choice, and engagement helps dilute behavior, if you will. But also having a consistent plan for how to handle disciplinary scenarios within that school also helps. And making sure that your teachers understand that writing a referral to the office should be the last resort because they're giving their power away once that happens.
Right.
You got to look for ways in which to engage that kid within that classroom, whatever that takes.
Fantastic.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
this is Dr. Hart. And Dr. Pereira, I have a question also that I would like to um, speak to you about. And we know there are challenges, and I'm speaking of the teacher staff, the professional staff, those who are in front of our students. And it, can you speak to the challenges that, because of the generations that we have entering the workforce today, we have the teachers have been around, as you know, for the last 30 years, who are just comfortable being in the classroom, who have different methodologies have changed over the years. And I think you spoke briefly to that earlier, and how that this technology and all the new trends, how that affects how the shift that's necessary. How challenging is it that to bring the teachers of yesterday to modern day, if you
It
will?
is very challenging, and I'll say that not here in Lancaster, but one of my previous districts, I had a teacher who had taught for like 20 something years. And she was proud to tell me that, she's not going to change what she's doing because what she's been doing has worked. It was the kids that are getting worse. And my thing is like, have you taught the same child for like 21, 22 years? And obviously her response was, no, I haven't. And I said, well, why would you continue to do the same thing when you don't have the same kid? Um, and it may work, but let's think about how more effective it can be if you really reflect it on the work that you're doing and how well that it is closing the gaps for that student. And basically, what I was trying to tell her is that even though she had 21 years of experience within the district, she was still a rookie teacher because she hadn't expanded beyond that. And that kind of went over like a lead balloon. However, it in the long run, she was open, and the kids are different. They're not going to sit and play school like I think all of us did. They're not going to, you know, not be distracted by things, but their attention span is much shorter than ours was.
Right.
If everybody thought PBS would ruin our attention with, Sesame Street and all those things. However, it is a real factor today, and it is about ensuring that those teachers, our teachers, have the resources that they need, and which is why you heard me talk about earlier of scaffolding, even the professional development for our staff members, because they will learn and they will need different support systems. We have to think about equity is not just for students, it's also for our staff, ensuring that they get what they need to build on each day. So again, we have different levels of experience, if you will. We're acquiring more and more. Our staff here in Lancaster is about a third, a third, a third. Third of veterans who are 20 plus in the middle there, and then the newbies that are 0 to 5. And so that is a challenge in itself because, again, they come with all different levels of skills and with their own idea of what they're going to do. So I think in order to respond to that, I would just say you have to know your staff, you have to know their
Yeah.
needs, and you have to build upon what is necessary and scaffold that out, just as we expect them to do in a classroom full of eager students.
Yeah, I feel you. That's interesting that that's the third, the third, the third. So that's quite a high population of those different generational gaps.
Yes, ma'am.
Indeed.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now we have time for one more question. Mrs. Smith has raised her hand. Welcome.
Good morning. Oh, I think it's afternoon where we are, but good afternoon, everyone. Leona Smith. I'm executive principal in Arlington County Public Schools, which is in Virginia. Former member of FABC with my brother, Mr. Harris, up there in Fairfax. In supervising, I have 42 principals, and of them, we have 11 that we have identified. They have been identified federally as needing intensive support. So I love hearing about your framework. But one of the things we're noticing as we're getting into these schools frequently, we're all implementing science of reading in these programs because we've all, depending on your state, we have legislation that you have to use certain programs. And I'm walking in classrooms with principals and coaches and district personnel, and I'm really struggling to see the differentiation that's needed, but also this push for fidelity, fidelity, fidelity. And teachers are really struggling with what does fidelity and differentiation look like? And and just has anyone really found like the best sort of approach program? I know you can't, it's people over programs. We all know that, but we all have some programs we have to use. And I'm trying to find who is really moving the needle for students with disabilities out there, who is really, really moving the needle for English language learners. Because when I look across the data, I'm not finding those exemplars. I would love to take my folks
Which
out to see who's getting it done because we need that efficacy because
last
people are
one?
feeling like, man, we're giving it everything we've got. What else can we give? So just love any thoughts on that.
Is that me or Ms. Hart or?
You're the superintendent that's available right now, Dr. Pereira. So
Do you see Dr.
Um, I would say in order to do that, and no, I have
information.
not found. I'll tell you, I've been in this arena as a superintendent for the last 14 years, Ms. Smith, and I can tell you, and I've been in 3 different states, including Virginia, where you are. But I would tell you, there's no exact piece because here's the thing. I used to hear my aunts or whomever say, I can give you the recipe, but can you cook it the same way? I don't
That's
know. And
okay.
so I would say that in your case, I would start with those district look-fors. You really have to establish those, in my opinion, across the district as to what to look for, and then ensuring that you are doing some calibrations with your principals so that they also know what the expectation is. Because interpretation, even of the word just equity itself, um, can mean different things to different people. And so again, I would just looking for look-fors, and I can talk with you more offline, if you will, if you'd like some assistance from myself and or my team to help you with some of those things. And I'll give a disclaimer, we're not perfect, but we do what we do for our students here in Lancaster with a strong belief that your address, your abilities, are not learning disabilities. And so we try to ensure that all of our kids are getting what they need, including our students for special ed. And I would give you one other level of advice is that not focus on the outcome, look at the growth of our students, not look at that final outcome, because that can be discouraging. However, you got to find those little wins in that. So.
All right.
And also, I will say to you, Ms. Smith, I actually am a founder of an organization called Sister Soups that helps Black females in leadership roles within our schools. So I would love to have you talk with you more about joining us and having access to almost 200 superintendents across the nation.
Well, absolutely to that.
Awesome. Yeah, I see someone put the website in the chat. So thank you to Miss Cotton. Miss Cotton, you have your hand is raised as well?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I put this in the chat earlier and I didn't want to add to the litany of questions, but I wanted to just kind of share, and I am a huge supporter of Dr. Pereira. We're now in a very toxic time politically. And I was hoping that Dr. Pereira would mention Sister Soups because what I'm finding is that there are grassroots organizations all over the country that are attempting to tackle this very topic that you've expressed in today's conversation. And perhaps we can just dive a little bit on how we can organize and unite our individual efforts around the country so that we don't make just unilateral impact, but we can really unify and collaborate as thought partners to move the needle. Dr. Pereira, can you shed some light on that, please?
I think you just did. I think you just did. And again, I would say that for those who are, and my brother's on here as well, we are more than happy to help as well. But I did start the organization based on female leaders, particularly Black female leaders within our education systems in order to assist. And so I'm happy to talk offline because I don't want to steal any more of the time talking about sister soups. I'm happy to talk offline. I'll put my contact information in the chat for those who are interested in talking to me about it.
Thank you.
All right, fantastic. Thank you, Dr. Pereira. Thank you again for your time, your expertise, your wisdom, your guidance, and the willingness to have folks reach out to you to learn a little bit more about what you do and to get support so they can take that support back, your expertise back to their own districts and their own work. So again, thank you so much for your time. If there are any final words you'd like to share with our audience before we move on to our next panel.
My final words are that I use reflection, know yourself, and ensure that you never forget your purpose and what you're doing and who you are serving. Because the adults in the world of education will throw you off. But just if you can go back to that purpose and why you're doing this, it has kept me sane and focused for the last 33 years.
All right, fantastic. Thanks again. And the admin commission will be certainly keeping in touch. And again, as Dr. Hart said, maybe reaching out to you to help provide us for some future professional development as part of commission work. So again, thank you again for being flexible and jumping in a little bit earlier this afternoon/morning.
Minutes.
I think I'm supposed to.
All right, fantastic. All right, Mr. Kemp, we're going to jump right on next. We're going to move into our next portion. We have Mr. Eric Kemp. He is the NABSE Administration Commission Chair. He'll be giving us a little bit of information before we jump on with our second panel. So, Mr. Kemp, information that you have for some upcoming events from the NABSE Administration Commission.
All right, excellent. Again, Dr. Pereira, thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're still on or not, but we know how busy you are, and we so appreciate you making time for us this morning. And I'm excited that we had some other superintendents, not actually on the panel, that are going to be able to connect with you and continue the rapport down the line. So again, thank you. This is actually a perfect moment for us to have our break in between our two segments. We just had Executive Director, NABSE Executive Director Phyllis Williams walk into the room. She's in town here in Phoenix, Arizona, to be present for the installation of the new executive team for the new Arizona State Alliance of Black Educators. So I'm gonna just turn my camera around so Phyllis can speak to the group here. So Phyllis, thank you for flying in from Texas to be here.
Good morning. I just want to say good morning to everyone. It's good to be here this morning. It's good to see everybody. I am excited about our Arizona APSE coming on board, and we're here for support to make sure everything goes well and to support them in their efforts. It's so good to see everyone this morning in the training, and I just wanted to say hi and good morning on behalf of NABSE.
Good morning.
Our unexpected but well-timed treat to have our Executive Director Phyllis Williams pop in. So we actually got a couple different things happening right here. We're here at Linda Abroad Educational Academy, an alternative school in the Phoenix Union High School District. In 2024, Linda Abroad Educational Academy was identified as a national demonstration school by the National Alliance of Black School Educators. So we're excited to host this webinar focusing on leadership from the top, voices from the top, and simultaneously, we've got our multi-purpose room is being prepared right now for the induction ceremony of the executive team. And Mr. DeLon Leggett, who is participating in our current webinar, he's going to be officially installed as the president of the Arizona State Alliance of Black School Educators. We got Tracy Dunbar, the president-elect. We have Shalonda Smith, the secretary, and Miss Brandy Outlaw is going to be also installed as the treasurer. So we're doing a little bit of double duty here this morning, but we're excited. We're super excited. Yeah, I also want to just take a moment to, again, I know, again, to thank everyone who's joined us online. I know some people joined us for the first session, had to drop off. And I know people are just continuing to join us. So I'm just looking at the list of participants here. I just want to give, hey, I see Dr. Anna Battle. Hey, Dr. Battle. All right. So Dr. Anna Battle has joined us. We also have uh, Dr. Marcus Alexander, who is also on our second panel. And it should be noted that he is the commissioner for the Superintendent's Commission. I see Dr. Gray also has joined us. He's on our second panel, coming all the way down there from New Orleans, the Jefferson Parish School District. We're excited to have you on board. And again, thank you, Dr. Pereira, for joining us. And then just some other folks I see in the audience. Again, we heard from Lisa Norwood. Congratulations to you on your brand new superintendency. All right, Leona Smith, thank you for participating and for the great question you put out there. I see Nicole Cotton, and so thank you guys for the great questions that you put in there. So again, we want to just make sure that we all understand why we're here today. This is the first of a series of events sponsored by the NABSE Administration Commission, and in Chicago at our annual conference, there was a very intentional plan that was designed by the board of directors to make sure all the various commissions had events that would engage, our community throughout the year. And again, as we said at the beginning of the first session, we wanted to start with Voices for the Top, our superintendents. Even though the superintendents have their own commission, we thought it was appropriate to start with them here from the Administration Commission. But they are one of several commissions. We are the one of several commissions. Again, we have the Instruction and Instructional Support Commission, which is led by Ms. Shawn McKay. We have the Retired Educators Commission, led by Dr. Zona Jefferson. We have the Education Commission, led by Dr. Sylvia Hill. We've got the Parents Commission, led by Miss Stephanie Alexander Johnson. Dr. Stephanie Alexander Johnson. And our Governance and Education, led by Ty G. Jones. So we're really hoping that, that everyone finds a place to plug themselves in as far as a commission they can be a part of, whether they're a parent, whether they're a retiree, whether a campus administrator, a district administrator, a superintendent, or even in higher education. There's a place for you. And we'll be continuing to have these events. Our next administration commission is going to be in June. We'll take some time off in July, but then we'll be back in August and September, and we'll meet with a little bit more urgency as we get closer to the conference that's going to be in Orlando this year.
All right, thank you, Mr. Kemp. Next up, we are super excited to have our second panel. In this panel, we have three dynamic instructional leaders, superintendents from around the country. We'll be focused on data, rapid results, and bold leadership. Our first superintendent that we'll be introducing is Dr. Anna Battle. Dr. Anna Battle is a highly respected instructional and operational leader with nearly 4 decades of experience advancing student achievement, organizational excellence, and equitable educational systems. She currently serves as Deputy Superintendent for Roosevelt School District in the heart of Phoenix, Arizona, where she provides executive leadership over academics and operations, including human resources, finances, teaching and learning, special education, data and research, technologies, student services, transportation, student wellness, and athletics. In June 2026, Dr. Battle will assume the role of superintendent of the Chandler Unified School District, continuing her commitment to innovation, collaboration, and student-centered leadership at one of Arizona's premier school systems. Known for her visionary and results-driven leadership, Dr. Battle has successfully managed multi-million-dollar budgets, complex operational systems, and diverse educational programs while fostering strong relationships with governing boards, community partners, and legislative stakeholders. Please join us. She has a lot more on her bio, but please join us in welcoming Dr. Anna Battle.
Thank you very, very much for the opportunity to be here this morning. This is very exciting. I love talking about teaching and learning and how we can move the needle for students.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Next up, we have Dr. Marcus Alexander. Dr. Alexander is an educational management consultant and a veteran public school executive with deep expertise in district finance, organizational redesign, and executive leadership. A Southside Chicago native and graduate of Chicago Public Schools, he began his career in public service by enlisting in the United States Army while still in high school. In 2006, he was formally commended by the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Financial Management for his leadership during the base realignment and closure proceedings. Following his military retirement, Dr. Alexander transitioned into public education, where he served as a certified principal, chief school business official, and superintendent in multiple school districts across the state of Illinois. He has led complex district turnarounds and fiscal stabilization efforts, most recently serving as superintendent of Calumet Public School District 132. His prior roles include superintendent of Pembroke CCSD 259, associate superintendent of Waukegan Public Schools, and senior administrative positions within Chicago Public Schools. Across these roles, he's developed a reputation for aligning governance, finance, and instructional priorities to drive sustainable improvement. Again, he has a lot on his bio, but again, welcome to Dr. Marcus Alexander. Thank you for your time, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're calling from. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to sit on this panel. As Dr. Battle said, I'm always excited about talking about how can we move the needle for the next generation of our students. So I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to our conversation today.
Fantastic. Thank you again for your time, sir. Last but not least, we have Dr. James Gray. Dr. James Gray is the superintendent of Jefferson Parish Schools, Louisiana's largest and most diverse public school system, serving approximately 47,000 students. Since becoming superintendent in 2020, Dr. Gray has led JP schools through significant challenges, including the global pandemic and Hurricane Ida recovery, while driving substantial improvements across the district. Under Dr. Gray's leadership, JP Schools was one of the first large districts in the nation to return to in-person learning after COVID-19, setting a model for others. His tenure has seen remarkable academic progress, with the district being one of only 20 in Louisiana to improve its district performance score in 2021 and achieving its largest performance score growth in a decade the following year. In 2024, Jefferson Parish Schools achieved a historic milestone by earning a B district rating. This accomplishment is the first time Jefferson Parish Schools has reached a B rating since 2015. Wow. Demonstrating the district's continued focus on academic excellence. Again, he has a lot on his bio, but I'm going to stop there because we want to hear more from our superintendent colleagues. So again, welcome, Dr. Gray.
Thank you. I want to apologize. I forgot my ring light, so I'm a little shadowy today, but looking forward to the conversations today.
Fantastic. You and me both. I have my ring light on, but I guess that's just my natural skin tone. All right, Dr. Hart, I'm going to turn it over to you to moderate this next session.
Thank you, Mr. Harris, and welcome to the three esteemed superintendents that we have for this session. I want to start off by mentioning that with the leading now or leading the charge, this refers to a proactive, human-centric approach to leadership that combines emotional intelligence with strategic alignment to drive sustainable results. As K through 12 superintendents, you are navigating high stakes, politically complex environments in which strategic communications and peer support is needed to support student outcomes. So the four areas that we're going to address in your questioning are influencing people, emotional engagement, strategic alliance, and sustainability. And when we talk about influencing people, this means shifting from purely technical or authoritative management to influencing people through empathy, engagement, and shared purpose to create a more resilient organization. When we speak of emotional engagement, we're speaking to cultivating emotional connections to boost morale, resilience, and retention. We speak to strategic alignment. We're translating emotional awareness into strategic action, which involves managing one's own internal emotional narrative and understanding the emotional needs of employee safety, autonomy, inclusion, and justice to foster higher energy and better performance. And lastly, when we speak to sustainability, we're ensuring that long term, lasting success by integrating social, environmental, and financial goals. Sustainable leadership involves fostering a sustainable DNA to create positive environmental and social impacts while improving organizational performance. So, your questions will be geared to 3 minutes each. So, each of you will have an opportunity to address briefly the questions under a second session with data, rapid results, and bold leadership. So I will speak to each one of you superintendents. Whoever starts off first will be last in the next question round, and then whoever's last will start off as first. So we'll start off with Dr. Marcus Alexander. The first question is, data can often feel overwhelming for busy principals. What are the three most important data points, in your opinion, that a leader should review every Friday to prepare for the week ahead?
I think this question is very important because it gives honor and credence to there's a whole lot that's going on within the school district, right? And so when we start to talk about how do we move the needle for instruction, it has to be rooted in something. So we pick the data, we look at different data sets, we look at what students are learning, how they're learning, what teachers are teaching, and then how we know they're learning it. And so if you ask me what are the three most important data points that I would look at every Friday to prepare for the week ahead, I would start with what was supposed to happen or what were students supposed to learn, what were teachers supposed to teach. So that's a posed question. Then what actually happened. And then that last component is where do I need to fix the problems or the gaps? And so, as a principal, I think it's important to always look ahead. And when we talk about data, especially, I use attendance data, for instance. If we know that it's an important week coming up, it's a holiday, then you have to be strategic. And I know that one of the things you talked about earlier, you have to be strategic to say, what are we going to do to make sure kids want to come to school this week? What are we going to do to make sure our staff want to come to school this week? And then how do we put those systems and structures in place to make sure it happens? So me as a superintendent, I've always been a planner, right? Here's what I'm supposed to do. Here's what I actually did. Here's what I need to do to fix what I couldn't make happen. So that would be my short answer to that question.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander. Same question for you, Dr. Annabelle, and good morning. Hello, and I hope you're
Good
doing
morning.
well.
I'm doing well. Good to hear from you. Good to see you, Dr. Hart. So, yes, Friday, when you look at each week, you're talking about the end in mind. And I'm a strong believer that we must ensure that we give teachers adequate time to plan. So Friday is significant, but there's also a bigger picture about really where do we want our kids to perform. So I'd ask the principal, and I work with the principal. Our systems would be held accountable to progressive growth monitoring. So make sure you guys can hear me. So with that said, I would say, well, where are we supposed to be at? If we take a look at our year-end goals based upon student progress, and again, we're talking about not only the aggregate of students inside of a school or grade level, we're talking about individual students and their progress from the year prior. And then we're talking about how do we unpack that from quarter to quarter, or from week to week. And so that's a quite complex process, but it's important that we know where our kiddos are at from week to week. So at that particular time, we'd look backwards. We look backwards and say, okay, where are we progress monitoring? And based upon that data, we have to be willing to modify, to pivot accordingly, and plan for the next week and the week thereafter. What also is important too is the mindset of our students, but as well as our teachers. As we look at data a lot, sometimes we send the message that we are, data paralysis, and therefore is no purpose for quality instruction and relationship. So we have to be careful that we don't send that unintended message that is the key. So if we look at the wellness, as I heard, empathy is really important. It was we look at our students' progress and their academic achievement, their mindset, what's going on? How are you doing today? How are we checking in? All of those data points are important on that Friday. And then as the babies come in on Monday, we assess what they're doing, where we're at, but we've also given teachers time to plan for the upcoming weeks, not just the week, but the upcoming week. So it's a dynamic process, but that Friday is key. Let me tell you what that Friday must look like. The administrators, the teachers, the staff, they need to have time. They have to have time to really dive into the data in a very collaborative way. Because what I might see, because I'm in the midst of the mess or in the whirlwind, might look real differently for someone else outside of the moment. So Friday is a dynamic day. I want to say that's why some schools are using that Wednesday as an early release, or some schools are going to a 4-day work week schedule. So yeah, I can talk all day on that question, but it all depends on the systems that the school district has scheduled.
Thank you, Dr. Battle.
My pleasure.
Those points that you mentioned are very, very important to the success of school sites. And you're definitely in a position to make sure that happens.
Yes, ma'am.
Pivoting to Dr. James Gray, welcome. How are you? And would you like for me to repeat the question, Dr. Gray, or are you good?
No, I think I'm good. For us, I mean, I haven't been at the school level for quite a while, but I actually started that role at the age of 26. And so I've been in education for 31 years. So there's a lot of things that I've been able to string together. And one thing I know that the culture of your organization, whether you're at the school level or at the district level, has to be so tight about what your priorities are that you have a consistent structure that allows you to accomplish those things. One of the things that we try to make sure that all of our schools are doing on a regular basis is determining how you impact instruction from one day to the next. We get so caught up on looking at what benchmark data is saying, what end of year data is saying, but we don't necessarily see what day-to-day instruction looks like. So one of the data points that we constantly have our schools do, but we also do it at the central office level because we want to model those same behaviors, is we look at walkthrough data. And when we look at our walkthrough data, we are looking at what the teacher is doing, but more importantly, what the students are doing in response to what the teachers are doing. Those are two data points that allow us to, when we go to our instructional leadership team meetings, or our cluster meetings, or some people call them professional learning communities, we're looking at that from both aspects. How can we improve the teaching inside the building? But what do kids specifically need in order for them to be able to meet the objectives or the standards that are being taught? So many times people do walkthroughs and they look at what the teacher is doing and think, oh, they've done well. I've had teachers to come and say, how is it that I've done everything the rubric says and I should be getting a 4, but you gave me a 2? I say, if you do everything that the rubric says, but the kids are not getting the knowledge, then you are only going through a performative task and not necessarily achieving an objective. And so we want to make sure that we're continuously looking at that data on a regular basis. The second data that I want to actually kind of talk about, and this is something that I lean heavily on because of the student population I had when I was a principal, and we're doing this across our district now, is going to be discipline data and attendance data for teachers and for students. We have teachers now that will miss school, and every time they miss school, that means that a pattern is being set where a substitute teacher has to step in. And so we have to be prepared to figure out how to supplement that student's educational processes while their teacher is out. But we're also trying to figure out like why our kids are missing. What is it that's driving them away? Do they have parental support at home? How is this leading to discipline problem, or is it not leading to discipline problems? And so by having a firm grasp about what's happening in your school behaviorally as well as attendance, you can actually start to narrow down the variables that are impacting the instructional success of your building. And you can start to try to put preventative measures in place so they don't impact you as much as they can if you don't pay attention to those. And the last piece is going to be actually what does student progress look like, current progress look like against their historical performance, what they did last year, what they did last week, what they did yesterday, what they did on the last benchmark, and having that comparative marker telling you if they're on pace to actually gaining understanding and increase performance on benchmarks and standardized testing before they get to that particular point. And you can see, okay, this kid was weak in this last year, but they're doing this extremely well this year. We're doing this well. What else we need to do to make sure that we can close any other gaps that they have? So the more you engage with information that gives you real-time data, it allows you to have real-time actionable feedback and response to that data.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. That was pretty pretty deep right there, but it's very practical. And I'm glad to hear your response to that question. I appreciate it. And you're going to stay on board for the next question, Dr. Gray, as well as
Got it.
the superintendents that will follow you. How do you coach your leaders to use data, not just for accountability, but as a flashlight to find and celebrate small wins? And I know you did just touch on a little bit of that in your current remarks. So if you could
So
add any more to that.
Absolutely. So we have a full structure that starts with our central office. And when we first came into Jefferson Parish 8 years ago, the culture was not what it is today. The culture was one where everybody worked in isolation. High schools did what they wanted to do. Elementary did what they wanted to. There was curriculums all over the place. There are a few principles that were in place that actually understood what good, effective schools looked like, but it wasn't the norm. So what we want to do is make sure that we start hiring the best people to be the leaders in the building and make sure that they had the philosophies necessary to make sure that kids grow. And so one of the things that we want to establish throughout we want to establish throughout the entire district was a culture of learning. And that means that the people who are leading the schools had to be the lead learners. And so we have an actual training process. We have cluster meetings every month for our leaders in our buildings, our assistant principals and our principals. They go through the same process that our teachers go through. So it's almost like common planning time for the leaders in the building. And I often say our principals are the most impactful variable or individual in a school, but also in a school district. The teacher is the most influential factor in the classroom. But if you have a principal that is not aligned, you will run off good teachers and keep housing bad teachers because no expectations are being given. So your principals have to be so aligned with what your district philosophy is. And then you have to make sure that they understand the difference between going through the procedural aspect of what you want them to do and going through it with intentionality where your goal is to make sure that your kids are learning. And so we have a very, very robust pipeline of developing leaders. It starts with our teachers. They move up to master teachers, content leaders. We have a training pool for people who want to be principals in our district that they have to go through. And when we start selecting people to be our assistant principals, we are pulling from a qualified pool. We have a certain expectation, whereas if you want to be an assistant principal, you got to go through this training and this rigorous interview process. If you make it through that, you go into our assistant principal pool. And so when you apply for a principal job, if there are multiple jobs open, you are not guaranteed to say, I just want to apply for that job. You're applying for a job. And based off of fit and match, we will place you in the job that we think will be the best fit for your talents, but also for the school and what they need. And we have a very similar process for our principals. And then once they get into a leadership role, we have a separate group of a separate training for new and novice administrators, because there's so much that we assume that they know that they have no clue of what to do. So our mindset is assume they know nothing, teach them everything. And so by putting them through those continuous processes, it allows us to make sure that they're growing and they're going from the mindset of this is just procedural for me to whereas what do I intentionally need to do when I walk in that building today to make sure that kids are walking away meeting the maximum potential that they can meet for that particular day.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. And that's going to be very informational for everyone who's listening. And hopefully this will be shared amongst the rest. Dr. Anna Battle?
Yes, yes, my pleasure. I appreciate the comments that were just recently shared. I like the word flashlight. What the flashlight does is makes information brighter and it shines through so that we can see where we're going. So it's important that we monitor our data regularly. So I would say coaching, how do I coach to use data? One is at the district level, we have to have a macro level, a level of data that helps us to see summative performance, where we're going. Again, that flashlight, where we're going, are we meeting the needs of all schools in our district? But what's really important at the site level is that the building leadership, again, that includes an executive group of people. That's not only the principal, that's the assistant principals, that's the instructional coaches, the team leaders, the PLC leads, all of which they're looking at data in a very collaborative way. You can hear me say that word a lot. They're looking at data because the lens in a flashlight is going to help us to see where kiddos are, not in the aggregate, but again, individually. That takes a lot of effort and systems management and data dashboards to really progress our visual towards a vision of excellence. We talk about a culture of performance often, that every student needs to have the opportunity to master standards and really beyond the standards, because that's just a baseline. In every state, the standards are just the baseline. That's the fundamental. We've got to look beyond the baseline about how we can accelerate learning for each kid. So coaching to do that can be overwhelming. It cannot happen in one, how should I say, sound year. We've got to build the talent of the leadership as well as the instructional coaches over time. So as we meet them where they are when they're hired, and when we are working within systems, we can't forget that they're in the midst of the mess every day. So what tools and resources can we provide for them along the way while we're building their data capital to help them help their teachers with what they see in their students each and every day? But if we get away from the personalized performance of kiddos, that's where we start to lose and we create gaps on our own. Society doesn't create those divisions. We do unintentionally in the classroom. So the systems have to be efficient from the district office to the site principal to the development of the teachers, as well as the students and parents. It's not about doing things to the students, it's doing things with them. It's not just informing the parents, it's allowing them to inform us. So if we use that flashlight collectively, it won't just point straight, it'll point across the room so that we can all be focused on all the things we just heard from two esteemed leaders about what it is we're trying to learn and really focus on that. But are we doing it? Are we really doing it? And are we building a sound, solid individual who's going to thrive in the future?
Thank you, Dr. Battle. That was actually very, very thorough. I appreciate it. I like how you use the flashlight analogy. So, Dr. Alexander, do you need a repeat of the question or?
No, I'm good. I have it. I think Dr. Battle and Dr. Gray gave really profound responses. And so I'm gonna add a little bit to what Dr. Battle talked about. For me as a district leader, I always get cornered by people to say, why does the data look like this? Why does performance look like that? And so for me, everything is about the story. How do you provide evidence of what's really happening? And so as I'm coaching leaders, that's really what I'm asking them to do. I want you to, one, to understand the story of what academics and operations look like in your building. But two, I want you to be able to tell it. And so when we start to talk about student achievement, that data is a flashlight that really gives information about what's happening in that building or the lack thereof. And so I always walk into a situation with leaders and I'm asking them the question, what are you expecting the students to know, understand, and be able to do? And once you really conceptualize all three of those components, then we're looking at what do students come to us with? And then once they come to us, what are we actually providing? And do we know that if what we're providing isn't working? And so I'm always pushing my principals, APs, instructional teams to be able to answer the question of what's your story based on the data. That means that you have to be in classrooms. That means that you have to truly understand what teachers are teaching and why. You also have to understand how they're teaching so that you can provide them the feedback and support. As a superintendent, I can't go in the classroom on a walkthrough and say, no, teacher, that's not right. My job is to really work with that principal to get them there. But what I do as a superintendent is say, hey, kid, what are you learning? Why are you learning this? What led up to this? Did you get it? What's next? And so it goes back to that model of telling the story. The students can tell the story as well, right? And when the student is able to tell you this story, we learn, most of us learn in school, getting your doctorate degree about triangulation. If I can tell you all the points, what we're doing and why, then I can replicate it, which means I know it, I've learned it. And so that's really how I try to cultivate leadership through an instructional lens of just really having people to be involved and immersed in the process so that they can tell what they did. If you can't tell me what you did, you probably didn't do anything. If student data is continually rising, you're going to be the first person to tell me every single thing that you did. We had PLCs, we had unpacking sessions where we work with teachers to look at the standards and identify where every student fell within the standard. And then we provided that individualized small group differentiated instruction. But if your data is low and it's consistently low, you probably couldn't tell me why. Well, we didn't put this system and structure in place, or we're not doing this, we're not doing that, we're not. So again, it's all about the story.
Thank you so much. And I agree 100%, Dr. Alexander. So, Dr. Alexander, staying with you for our next
Mhm.
question. And for others that will follow you, we'll have the same question. Can you share an example of a quick win improvement that was sparked by a simple shift in how a school looked at its data?
Sure.
So, to repeat, can you share just a quick win? And that's in quotes. A quick
Quick.
win
Gotcha.
improvement that was sparked by just a simple shift in how a school looked at its data.
A quick win for me, and this goes back even to my days as a principal. I've never been a huge fan of whole group instruction because our whole classroom is not on the same level. And so it took me a very long time. But once I was able to get teachers to understand that you can't teach generic lessons in its simplest form and expect everybody to get it, once I got them to understand that they had to really maximize small group instruction and differentiation, we start to see an immediate shift in our student growth. We had students who could not decode words or they couldn't read because they couldn't decode words. Now we're providing them that specific instruction. They're on it. They're on it. They still may be a grade level or two behind. However, they're making growth and closing that progress. So really just shifting from a whole group universal mindset to a small group individualized setting, we were really able to impact our students' growth over time.
Okay, that sounds wonderful. Um, Next question, same question for Dr. Battle.
Yes, thank you so much for the question. And I would say a quick win is understanding and helping the leadership understand that we've got to have patience and perseverance. And what does that mean? That means that we have to have a mindset that individual students need to learn, and therefore develop strategies towards that. So personalized, blended, mastery-based learning. That takes a lot. to develop and implement, but building upon that year after year has shown tremendous sustainable gain in the classroom and for our students' future. Our babies are accessed and exposed to different things, whether at home or whether at school or on the playground. And so everyone's at different places. I'm a grandparent right now. I got 2 babies and they're sponges. But if we weren't pouring into them what we're doing at their young age, there would be a void only because of access of what is in front of them and what the world is telling them, the story that we just heard about. So I would say that what that does is just be willing to have courage to develop learning strategies that help exceed the need of every child. It doesn't happen quickly, so to speak, but developing a culture to champion that will have great dividends in our students' lives.
Thank you for that, Dr. Battle. Same question for you, Dr. Gray.
Yes. So it's a quick win, but it took a long time to get to the outcomes that we're having now. So for me, it was establishing what we called our 3 big rocks. So we put that in place very, very first day. And those 3 big rocks are high quality instructional materials across all of our schools, job embedded professional development, and then making sure we gave real-time actionable feedback to teachers about what their performance is inside of the classroom and what students are doing inside of the classroom. And because we started with that from day one, it allowed us to establish that culture of learning that I talked about earlier. It allowed us to be able to have consistent expectations across all of our schools. And we have seen growth every year for the past 8 years as a result of it. We are, as someone mentioned in my bio, we received a B rating, a B letter grade rating for the first time in 10 years. And then we have a B again this year. And then accountability is shifting on us. And I tell people all the time, I say, it doesn't matter what the state does or what the federal government does in relationship to accountability changes. If we stick to the core tenets of what made us successful, we can navigate any change that they give to us. And what it does is it gives people hope that if we just stay true to what our core values are, what those 3 big rocks are, we don't have to spend all of our time worrying about variables that we cannot control. And I think by doing that, we're able to kind of sustain growth throughout, regardless of what happens outside of us. But it also gives people an understanding of this is how we do business. You talk about Fullen's phases of change, and you go through initiation, implementation, institutionalization. And to get to the last phase, it takes anywhere from 5 to 7 years. But what institutionalization means is this is how we function. You don't have to say it every day. It's just how we do business. And I think we're getting close to that point, but it all started with that quick win of getting those 3 components put in place.
So you refer to those as the 3 rocks, am I
3
correct?
big rocks, correct.
Right. What is the derivative of that? I'm just curious, Dr. Gray.
To be honest, I actually just carried it over from my practices when I was a principal. And one thing I learned early on is you have to give constant feedback to your teachers. You have to be in classrooms on a regular basis. You have to be able to understand what the data is telling you. If you don't have a consistent, high quality curriculum, you'll have teachers teaching what they want. You'll go on those paid teacher websites and pulling off information that has nothing to do with the standards and expectations that is going to be required for the end of the year test. And one of the things I clearly knew that is our teachers were working in isolation when I was that principal. So I was like, okay, we're going to create a structure that allows you to work collaboratively. You can learn more when you collaborate with the English teacher, if you're a social studies teacher, or a math and science, or even across all of them. And so I just had those things in practice. And as I got older, I just refined it. So when I finally got here in Jefferson Parish, I just transitioned it here. So a lot of the things that I do, there's a lot of science that backs it up, but just trial and error from being in this business so long and starting at a young age, you just start to know what works.
Well, that obviously works. And if you could also answer the question that has to do with leadership actions for rapid results. So we're going to keep you there For an assistant principal who's looking to make an immediate impact, what is the one leadership habit that you believe yields the highest, quote, return on investment, unquote, in terms of school safety and wellness?
So I can go in so many different directions, but I try to stay short on this. And I think the best thing you can do is make sure you pack your ego at the door and start with yourself. You have to realize that everything in that building may not be accurate. And if you can say we did wrong or we are not where we need to be, the quicker you can acknowledge it, put processes in place to make those deficits stronger, and never, ever try to sweep anything under the rug. One of the things that I like to do is actually go out in public spaces and tell people what we're not doing well. And I think that it gives them a sense of, oh, these people are transparent, they're willing to be vulnerable. And then I'm going to ask them, from your perspective, what is it that we can do to be better in that area? And that goes over well with a lot of people, but we do a lot of things well too. So it's not just throw mud at James Gray or Jefferson Parish kind of process. So I think the fact that we've been successful, we've shown success since day one, people respect the leadership. And then so when we are vulnerable, they accept it. But I think that anybody who's starting off in that role, you have to take a deep dive. Don't let your ego play a role in how you see things, control for your biases. And that's the best way to overcome your true Achilles heel that may be holding you back.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that response, Dr. Gray. And Dr. Battle, can you share an example of a quick win improvement that was sparked by a simple shift in how a school looked at its data?
Very good. Yes. Actually, a simple shift of how a school looks at its data is, again, a little bit of what I talked about earlier. So I'm going to pause a minute and kind of expand upon that. Is that it is extremely important that there's not the undue stress. Education has evolved. It's evolved into where we are today so that we can definitely see a return on our investment. And it's a lot of hope that our students are going to be able to utilize the skills and knowledge that we have given them the many years that they're with us for a better future for themselves, but also others. So I would say that with all those things in mind, leadership matters. So leadership matters in the fact that we've got to build our leadership capacity. We've got to model highly effective leadership capacity and really complete what we start. So the data that we share, again, from the district level onto the site level, we've got to be sure that there are building blocks that are utilized and that there's some successes along the way. I can look into the eyes of our leaders sometimes as they're looking at data, and it may not look the way they want it to look at a certain point in time, but there are opportunities to still have some individual discussions, be honest, but also celebrate small wins, celebrate the growth, but also make sure that our teacher leaders, our principals are still striving, but not getting in frustration mode. We've seen for example, our students that may have English limited language issues, our special ed students, they just check out because they've gotten that frustration level. The same is true with building principals. So again, I think it's important that we've got to not forget the real part, and that's the people part, that's the person, not to push so hard that the job is no longer what we want it to be, but actually we're building upon the talent. We're investing it within the students, within the leadership, and making sure that they've got bite-sized progress of what they can champion and surrounding them with individuals that can help build that talent for sustainable growth. So I do like the other question too, that you talked about the AP ROI, and that's where my mind was at too. Again, I just say this briefly. It's really important that we build upon APs. I tell you, find a leader that you can learn from. Dr. Hart, you're one of those leaders. Many leaders that I know are those leaders that can help you grow. Don't just go get a job. Make sure you're working with individuals or finding individuals that help you grow your leadership talent.
That's excellent. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Battle.
Yes.
Moving on with our last superintendent question for this category, and it would be for you, Dr. Alexander, for a quick win improvement that you feel was sparked by just a simple shift in how a school looked at its data.
I think I answered that one already.
All right, well, we'll start you off with our next question.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to it. I certainly did not want to skip over you. So this leads us into what we call category four superintendents and school leaders. It's leadership actions for rapid results. So Dr. Alexander, for an assistant principal who's looking to make an immediate impact, what is the one leadership habit that yields the highest return on investment in terms of school safety and wellness, which we just talked about? But how do we, and when we're in need of a quick turnaround, how do you advise leaders to balance bold, immediate action with the need to maintain staff morale?
All right, I'll answer that in two parts. As it relates to the return on investment and what I think yields the highest results for safety and wellness, um, really having a visible presence with the intentional relationship building um, ability. I think things happen in schools with children and with staff because um, they're pushing limits, they're pushing buttons. When administration is visible, they know, oh, I can't do this. Students know that this is our protocol, this is our policy. We have to follow these laws. And if Principal Alexander or Assistant Principal Alexander finds out that I did this, he's going to be upset with me and he's going to be hurt. And that only comes when you build those types of relationships. And I don't care how big your school is, your students should know who you are. They should know what you stand for. And they should have enough respect and reverence for you to honor the policies and the rules of the school. And so when we talk about how do we get those quick wins of a turn of a quick turnaround that's bold and immediate, I go back to that. When people understand the expectations, when people understand the level of responsibility that you hold them to, when you're visible, when you're a participatory leader, when you're a leader that models and coaches, then you'll start to see things change. And people will buy into that change. As a leader, I think that's been one of my greatest strengths is just being a people person, getting people to understand why they are there. And then the role and the impact that they play. So creating ownership, creating a sense of belonging, but more than anything, creating a sense of accountability to say, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, then it's not going to happen. I think that's important because a lot of people understand that none of us came to education to become millionaires. We came to education. I wish we could, right? But we came to education because it's a work of the heart. It's heart work. And so by virtue of that, we know that we have to build relationships. We have to make people understand their importance, both in the organization, but the important role that they play to our students and their futures. And once they understand that, then we can start to do some great things as an organization. So really, that staff morale is important. If everybody's upset and disgruntled, nobody's going to perform well. Students, staff, administration. So we recognize that these are tough times. We recognize that we're doing more with less. We recognize that a lot of our students have challenges more so now than we've had in the past. But the fact that we stay in the fight, the fact that we continue to remain committed is because of our dedication. So, really just continuing the process of making people understand their value, their worth, um, and then just continue to magnify it.
I believe that also, and I appreciate that morale is important and we need to stay in the fight. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Alexander. And for this last, you still have one more question, panel, just so that you know, if you're looking at your clock and you have somewhere to go. We're going to move this next question, the same question for Dr. Alexander. When a school is in need of a quick turnaround, how do you advise leaders to balance bold, immediate action with the need to maintain staff morale?
Okay, I'll kind of go back to that one. Um, Bold action is what everybody's looking for in a leader. Nobody's looking for a leader who's indecisive, a leader who can't make on the spot decisions. Everybody's looking for a leader to stand firm, who's competent, who's experienced, and who really has the ability to guide us forward. That's one of the things I believe that continues to boost staff morale. When we're looking to improve schools, we need people to stand fast and say, listen, this may not be popular. This may not be what everybody wants us to do. This may not be what makes everybody feel good, but this is in the best interest of our kids and our school community. And when teachers and staff see that, they may grumble, they may gripe, but the reality is that they say, you know what? This is the path ahead that we all have to follow. And when they don't understand it, I think those around them will kind of give them that nudge to say, no, we got to do this together and we need your support. So really going back to um, getting that buy-in and keeping that buy-in, and then also engendering that level of ownership. Once people realize this is my school, this is my classroom, I have to make it happen, then you'll start to see that quick turnaround that you're looking for.
Thank you so much for that. Dr. Gray, can you speak to this question as well and add anything that you feel has not been stated and you feel
Yes, I think for me, the biggest piece is always explaining the why behind the bold moves that are being made. When people understand why, it gets them to not take it personal. When people don't understand, they start making up their own rationales for why things are going to take place, and it may not necessarily be the real intent of what things are or why things are taking place. We want to make sure that we communicate to them as much as we possibly can, because the more they feel like they are on the front end of something, they feel like they are part of something, not that something is being done to them. But after we do all this communication and telling them the why behind it and getting people to understand, you will still have a small population of people that will fight it just for the sake of fighting it. What I want to do is make sure that I give voice to the people who really want to see progress and growth and see our school system or our school grow, and making sure that they communicate as well. That way, it takes away the opportunity of it's just the central office that's determining how this thing is going to go. We include teachers, principals, and everybody else throughout the process. But the last piece is always going to be, and I share this on a regular basis, I subscribe to Bill Daggett's philosophy of I'm going to love the kids in the building more than I love the adults. It doesn't mean I don't love the adults, but the kids are the highest priority. And when you have that as a huge part of your culture, people start to recognize when we start to make any type of significant change, anything that's going to cause a comfort level for maybe the adults in the building is going to be something that's going to benefit our children. And I think over the past 8 years, we do things now, and the amount of um, pushback we get is nothing compared to what we used to get when we first got here. So whether we're consolidating schools or taking on a new initiative or anything like that, it's more aligned with what can we do to help and support as opposed to y'all shouldn't be doing this.
so thank you. I have one last question for all of our panel. And starting with you, Dr. Gray, the closing question that I'm asking each one of you, if you were back in the principal's office today, what would be your hour one priority to ensure every student's success starts now? And I know you spoke to this, but do you have anything else you want to add?
If I don't want to sound arrogant or anything like that. My first day of my first hour on the job as a principal, it really started with put everybody in one space. I meet with all my teachers individually. Let me know what it is that your strengths are. What has your past data looked like? Have you made progress? Start establishing what our negotiables and our non-negotiables are, asking them for input on how we move forward, and then bringing them all together as one group, setting forth what our goals, our vision, our mission is going to be. I think the biggest thing is trying to figure out who are the people who can be a little disgruntled and give them an opportunity to be on the front end of things. I'll share a quick story. I want to give a specific writing method when I first became principal, and the lady who was over the English department was old enough to be my grandmother. I mean, I was 26 years old. And so she had a lot of standing in the community, a lot of standing within the school. And I dropped enough nuggets in that meeting, that initial meeting with her, to whereas she knew what I was saying and said, "Oh, well, why don't we try this?" And in the back of my head, I'm saying, "Cha-ching, that's exactly what I wanted." So if she walked out of that meeting thinking it was her idea, and I let her walk away with that idea. And so she took it on and led the charge to where it wasn't the new 26-year-old principal telling these older people what to do. It's a seasoned vet in the building telling people this is the direction we should be going. So I think just understanding who your players are. I tell people the hardest part of my job and leadership, no matter what level I was, is understanding the personalities of the people you have to lead. And once you understand their personalities, you know exactly how to pull the levers that make them tick.
Thank you for that. And that was awesome. Thanks for sharing that story. So that was the last question for you, Dr. Gray. And I'm moving on to Dr. Battle, Dr. Alexander, for your 3-minute summations. If you were back in the principal's office today, what would be your hour one priority to ensure every student's success starts now?
So I'm going to assume that hour one is when I just walked in the door and staff is present and they want to know who this crazy lady is who they just hired. So actually, my first hour would just be to do just that. I'd walk around, get to know everyone, really just introduce myself in a very, I should say, welcoming way. Listening and learning and just trying my best to relieve any anxiety that people may have. That's the first hour as I would get a chance to walk into the room and walk around campus. Now, I'm assuming at the beginning of the year, there's no kids there. So again, teachers are doing their thing, walking through hallways, engaging with department chairs, as well as with teachers and staff, our classified staff stopping, shaking hands, having the opportunity to have a conversation. That hour is going to go by really fast. Based upon that, though, what I'm doing is not just performing, I'm learning. I want to know names. I want to know what people, how they receive one another. I want to see where the departments, I want to get familiar with the campus and, just really just getting out because really the investment is already made with them. Let's be real, the investment is not with me yet. That comes over time. So I'm going to respect the space that I get to navigate and just move about and around. Based upon that observation, I will prepare within that hour my opportunity to engage with the entire assembly. And that will be to talk about my 90-day plan. My plan will include what I've observed, what I've researched, what I've learned. I would have already looked at student data performance that's public. I would have probably met with some of the key folks from the campus. Based upon that, we talk with my executive assistant about what's my rhythm of standing meetings that I'd want to meet with. First and foremost would be the executive administrative team, her or him, whoever is my executive assistant. I would meet with that person as well, but I would also meet with the executive team. These are our standing meetings. These are our agendas will look like. I'd meet with the team leads, department heads, whatever they might be called. Let's talk about what already is working with you structurally, logistics. And then based upon that, I would take the feedback. I wouldn't go in there telling people what to do. I would go in there listening and learning to what systems are already at work. And then based upon that, then I'd go, why would that lead towards success? Because that's building towards the people first. It's relationships that matter. It's about making sure that we know we've got a safe environment to work with, that I am your leader that's here to work with you, not do to you, and that we are able to figure out where we are. But I can't come in there with the perception that things are already wrong. I've got to respect what's already there and help to figure out how can I be put in the game. And I'll know that, but I don't need to send that message. So I would say that hour would go by really fast, but the work that needs to happen after that would be where I would really dive deep into my listening and to my learning and to my application towards a unified vision that the strategic plan is already a work in action, but only to enhance what is already there before me.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. I appreciate that hour one plus plus.
Yes.
And I will give that last question if you're ready, Dr. Alexander.
Sure. For me, the first impression is the lasting impression. So I would really try to take that hour and really give them something to talk about, right? Most of them probably had no input on who the principal was, or I might not have been their choice, but I'm here now. So I'm going to walk through the door and really try to sell who I am and what I believe and why I'm here. We all have the same goal, and that's for students to be successful, improve the quality of education for kids in the community. But I'm here to make sure that we get there. So I want my staff to truly understand what I was hired to do, the work that's ahead, and then how we're going to work together. I think it's important that you make people understand who you are and your expectations, but more than anything, what's going, as Dr. Battle said, what's going to be our battle rhythm to make this happen, right? And so I want people to walk away whispering. I want them to go to the meeting after the meeting, because what that says is, okay, we got to figure this guy out. He said he's going to be supportive. He said he's going to be in the classroom, but he also said he's not going to take any of our crap. And what that does is it makes everybody looks in the mirror, right? It creates a level of reflectiveness that says, okay, I know where the goal is, and I know where the leader is here to take us. How are we going to get there? What role is he going to play? What role am I going to play as a staff member? And then after we have that, that first 1 hour, maybe in another week or two, I want to come back and do a follow-up. Okay, so I've been here for 2 weeks. What's your thoughts? What are some areas, what's some quick wins, right? What are some things that we said that we were going to do that we're doing? What are some things that we should be doing by now that we're not? And that's really how I try to continue the relationship. Although I may be the chief leader and the principal, I hold you just as accountable as a teacher, a faculty, and the staff of this building to make sure that we meet our goals. I'm just the captain of the ship, but a couple of years ago, I was the teacher sitting in the classroom. So it could be your chance. Now that it's my chance, I want to make sure that I'm providing you the support that you need so that you could be great in your capacity.
Well, thank you so much for that, Dr. Alexander, and for this panel that discussed leadership actions for rapid results and high impact engagement strategies. As I conclude my moderation for today's panel, I would like to thank all the superintendents who participated. That would be Dr. Alexander, Dr. Gregg, Dr. Battle, Dr. Pereira, and Dr. Hawkins. Thank you so much. And I'll now turn this back over to Mr. Anthony Harris.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gray, for your excellent moderation skills. We're certainly happy to have all of our participants join this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are. I'll leave the final words to our fearless leader, Mr. Kemp, to close us out.
Yes, thank you all to our leaders. I'm not going to repeat everyone by name, but thank you, thank you, thank you. I do want to give a special shout out again to Lisa Norwood, who's in our audience and asked some great questions, and for her new superintendency. And again, Dr. Anna Battle, also congratulations to you. We know that you are pivoting from one district to the Chandler Unified in your new role as superintendent for the upcoming school year. So congratulations to both of you. And I hope that you all find a place and reach out to Dr. Marcus Alexander, who is the NABSE Superintendent Commission Chair. And I encourage all superintendents, wherever you are in the South, in the West, in the Midwest, please find a way to plug yourself into your state affiliate, your local affiliate. We need your leadership, at the state level and the local level, and there's definitely an opportunity. Or again, you're super busy. We know that. Maybe there's another superintendent that you can encourage to support NABSE at the state and local level, where you are. So with that, I'll just again reiterate that we do have some other events coming down the road. On June 13th, we're going to have a more specific training sponsored by the Admin Commission. And again, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Hart for her moderation, to our Admin Commission Secretary, Principal Anthony Harris, who really made sure that everything went off. I don't think we had any really technical glitches, so thank you, Principal Harris. And again, Mr. Brazier, Mr. Leggett, and thank you for your leadership. And a lot went behind the scenes for this, and this was recorded, so we're gonna be able to make the wisdom and experience shared available to others. But June 13th will be our next meeting. August 15th, September 19th, October 17th, November 14th, and then from there we'll see you hopefully in Orlando for the conference. And I would love to find a way to incorporate all of you into the upcoming events. If you want to be a part of the Admin Commission in the planning, we do meet more frequently. And superintendents, we would love to give you a platform also at the conference in December. So please reach out. Most of you know how to reach me directly, but if not, you can leave your contact information. And also, the dates are on the NABSE website. But I look forward to connecting with you guys down the road. We're doing double duty here, so we're about to shift over. I'm getting looked at from the president-elect for Arizona State Alliance. I'm needing another. We're about to swear them in. So thank you, guys. God bless.